Hey everyone, this is Scott reporting in from Spain, and we're on day 20 and 21. It's hard to believe that tomorrow we'll actually finish three weeks of walking. Um, I'm not quite sure where we're at mileage-wise, but it's 300, I think 336, 340, something like that. Um, and have it's kind of hard to estimate. Conceivably we could have as little as 7 or 8 or 9 more days of walking before we reach Santiago. um, if that happens, then I've got to make a decision. Am I going to try and change my flights home, or am I going to go on to Finisterre? If you remember in the movie, um, the way the group goes past Santiago to the ocean, well, that's Finisterre. And so there's a lot of people include that in the Camino, but um, the Camino is just to Santiago, so Finisterre is more of I'll call it a side trip add-on to the Camino de Santiago. So I've got a week before I have to make that decision, so we'll wait and see. Today is, because I just videoed last night, I'm actually only walked one day today, and it was 13 miles, so it wasn't a long walk. We actually got here in time for lunch, and have just gotten showered, and our wash is in the machine, and we're actually just had lunch, and it was great. I'll have a few pictures, but not very many pictures, because there's not much between Astorga and where we're at tonight, which is Rabanal. Um, we certainly could have gone on, but there's a very important reason, I'll explain that in a minute, why I did not want to go on, and I convinced the group to let's go ahead and stop here, even though it was an extremely short day. We got started early, about 6:30, and walked close to 5 hours with a break for some coffee and croissants. Um, but I wanted to stop today because tomorrow we're going to reach the uh, one of the more important points, at least spiritually. If you're a spiritual person walking the Camino, tomorrow we'll hit one of the more spiritual points, and that's Cruz de Fer, which is, I've heard people say it's the highest point. I've heard some people say, well, it's almost the highest point, but there is one point higher. It's the traditional highest point of the Camino de Santiago, and it's where you leave stones. And it's if you remember in the movie, the way just before Martin Sheen heads out, the police person, captain of the town, stops him and hands him a stone. He says, "You'll know what to do when you get there." Well, that's where we're going. That's where we're going to be tomorrow, early in the morning. And so, without spending too much time on what we did today, because it was really pretty uneventful, walking from Astorga to Rabanal, I'll talk about who I'm praying for today and who I'm going to be praying for tomorrow. Today it was, remember I told you there were 3 people in my career that were very impactful in my life and have remained friends subsequent. First one was Mark Sweeney, who I prayed for yesterday. Today, it's just so hard, but Eric Schmid and his family. And when I was moved to Cleveland to take on the role of engagement partner on Rubbermaid, which was a very difficult situation, they also moved a senior manager from South Carolina, and this guy shows up, and he's got a southern drawl, and he talks slow and moves fairly slow, and in a good way, not a bad way. He's not he just is a easygoing guy. And I remember being so shocked one day. I was talking to a partner from KPMG Germany, and I was trying to talk to them about what I wanted to do related to some inventory, and I just, no matter what was happening, I couldn't get my thought process through to them. And Eric's sitting next to me, and I hadn't really spent that much time with Eric. I met him, and we had talked on more than one occasion, and we were working together. I don't think he had moved there just quite yet. And he looks at me, he goes, "Would you like me to try?" And I said, "Well, yeah, Eric, go ahead." And this guy with this South Carolina Southern accent breaks into perfect German. Perfect German. And I've had some people that from Germany listen, and they say it is perfect German. And Eric evidently, I didn't know at the time, had been raised in a Swiss-German household and spoke German all his life. And at that point, I fell in love with the guy. I mean, he was just, he just, there's so many complications to Eric Schmid that it's hard to define him in any distinct way. His wife, Diana, it's funny, the first time we met her was, I think it was right around New Year's Day of, let's see, I moved there in when was it? 96. And it might have been New Year's Day of 97, something like that. And we just called them because their moving van had gotten there, and we wanted to bring them over. I think we were bringing them over just something to eat. And so we called Eric and said, "Hey, Eric, I'm going to bring over some stuff for y'all to eat and a bottle of wine." And we were going to sit and relax. And while they were unpacking boxes, if we could help them, we were going to try and help them. But Diana had never met us before. And in the midst of us talking and everything, she passed out. And so I just figured this was I was just so awe-inspiring that Diana was overwhelmed when we met her. But Diana and Kathy quickly became very good friends and are very good friends today. They talk much more often than Eric and I do, but Eric and I talk 2 or 3 times a year, and usually it's on some controversial subject that Eric knows how I feel about it, and he definitely tries to challenge me on that, on the issue. I love the man, though, because he's one of the smartest guys I know, one of the most well-spoken, one of the most well-thought-out people that I've met. 2 great children, married great people, now has, I think, three great children. Sorry, Isabella, 3 great children. When I met him, there was only 2, but Isabella came along later, and so 3 great children. And I think they now have 3 grandchildren. If I'm wrong on that, forgive me, Heather, for that. So I love them both. I love them all very much, and am thankful that they're a big part of my life. So Eric, Diana, I love you, and prayed all day today, thanking God that he put you in to my life, and they called Eric to Cleveland to help me on the Rubbermaid account. So what about tomorrow? Well, this comes to the importance of hitting Cruz de Ferro in the daylight. So tomorrow, if anybody's following me, which I doubt they are, if anybody's following the list that I sent out of who I was praying for each day, well, I'm going to have to make a change, because I was anticipating that I would reach Cruz de Ferro on the 24th day, but I'm actually going to reach it on the 21st day, which, by the way, the 20th day is October 3rd, so if everybody's kind of keeping up with what dates or what, today that I'm making this video is actually October 3rd, so October 4th is the 21st day. I was anticipating being at Cruz de Ferro 3 days from now, because the day that I go to Cruz de Ferro, I'm going to be praying for my grandbabies, and both present and future grandbabies. So I actually posted this online, so when we did it, but just to kind of remind everybody, I had my two oldest grandchildren, Braden and Ava, sit with me over the summer and paint rocks, because what you do at Cruz de Ferro is you leave a rock, and it's to symbolize that you're leaving your burdens behind. And I'm adopting that principle, that I am leaving my burdens behind, but I'm combining it with a sign that I just adore my grandchildren, and I want them to be so blessed. And so I had them paint me 4 rocks, and so this is the first rock, and this was Braden's rock, and it has vines and a cross on it, showing Braden's love for Christ. And so Braden painted this one for himself, and I'm going to be leaving that, Cruz de Ferro. Love you, Braden. Ava, excuse me, still a few remnants of the cold, but all is well. Ava printed me just Ava with a heart on it, and I love Ava. She's the only girl, so she's kind of got us wrapped around her little finger. Love Ava. I'm going to leave that rock for Ava tomorrow. And then Ava, we had to kind of sit and think about, well, what do we do for baby Rhett? Because as you remember, he's only a year old, so he couldn't paint his own rock. So since baby Rhett's father is with the Texas Rangers, we painted a rock for Rhett. It looks like a baseball and has his name on it. I'll be leaving that for Rhett. So love you, baby Rhett, and we'll be leaving that in the morning. And then we all decided to paint this 4th one. So this is a message to all of my children that I'd like more grandchildren. This is for any future grandchildren that arrive that we don't know about right now, but I will love them as much as I love Rhett and Braden and Ava. Love my future grandchildren. So I'll be leaving this rock for my future grandchildren. So that's what I'll be doing tomorrow. I'll try and do a little video when we get there to leave the rock. So that's who I'll be praying for tomorrow. Sorry for the long video, but I thought it was important to talk about Cruz de Ferro and where we're going. And so I will be checking in a couple of days. So that's day 20 and 21. So get back with you later. Everybody's healthy, doing well, no big aches or pains, and making good time. All right, love everybody.